How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Ad Podcast. We are here with Elizabeth Herbst-Brady, the Chief Revenue Officer of the iconic Condé Nast publishing empire. Elizabeth, thanks for coming on.
It's wonderful to be here, Dylan.
So tell me a little bit about yourself and how's your can been? I know we just talked off camera. You are quite a veteran.
Yeah, my 14th can.
Wow,
with
amazing.
Multiple different companies. You know, in that journey, it is always a privilege to come here, I have to say. But I started way back when, in the days of a 3-television network world, believe it or not.
And,
I know
and
that
3 channels, right? Print,
that
movies,
makes,
and print radio and TV.
But before that, I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, moved to Chicago in high school, and my dad changed jobs, went back, went to Harvard. I like to say I was on the 7-year plan, not because I was such a great student, because I spent a fair amount of time on the dean's other list.
Nice.
But at any rate, when I graduated, there was a politician there named Scott Harshberger.
Okay.
And I went to work on his campaign.
Nice. So spend some time in politics
first. Which honestly was a great training ground.
I can imagine.
For marketing, media, advertising, and technology.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people with that story that have spent some time on the Hill before they come over to the industry.
It's really, what is your message? How are you communicating it? How are you showing the KPIs associated with what you said you were going to do? And then how do you manage change?
Spend every dollar efficiently, too. Yeah.
So, but my first job was at CBS Television Network. Nice. And I was in what was called network sales, which is basically the group of folks that were in charge of driving revenue from prime time, which 8 to 11 on the East Coast, 7 to 10 in the Midwest. And I like to say I was very well prepared for that job because I had read the TV guide cover to cover my entire life, and I was very good at talking on the phone.
You're a big fan of the product.
And so when my job was to call all the clients and explain to them that their schedule had changed or what have you, I knew the schedule.
I love it.
So from there, then moved into syndication for a number of different companies, many of them that don't exist anymore. Yep. But that was really the market-by-market representation of programming, and it really was the first foray into the value of context. Then Fox had 20th Television, and they were opening an office in Chicago.
Nice.
And I was hired to open the office. So literally, I went there. There was a phone on the floor, and went to a store down the street and bought a desk.
Let's go.
But it was really exciting. There was a little show called The Simpsons, which you may or may not remember, and it was going into syndication. I think
still the longest-running
TV
show in history?
Well, and I think it's been in syndication close to 30 years.
Yeah,
so presenting that, and that was so exciting because you were building something new and really being on the forefront of how consumers were starting to think about media, right? It was expanding. Cable was coming. Then I went back to New York. I was hired to run the entire syndication sales organization it was Universal Television. It was a Seagram's company, and then was eventually bought by Barry Diller.
Rolled into Disney.
At NBCU.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah.
And what was very cool about that is that was the first sort of understanding of the internet. So Barry bought Ticketmaster, and within 18 months converted a business that had been solely people calling on the phone to be completely online.
It's wild.
Using a technology from a company that doesn't even exist anymore, and that was the first sort of aha moment of, people's behavior is really going to change.
People are willing to buy concert tickets or event tickets on the internet. What else will they buy on the internet?
Well, and starting to think about what is the intersection of utility and brand. And then I went, that was like 7 years back and forth, ultimately was sold to NBCU Comcast. And I got a call to go to Starcom.
So you went agency side?
I moved to Chicago, and again, that completely opened my eyes. I'm a little embarrassed to admit it was one of the first times I considered the fact that either consumers buying a product or advertisers spending money were doing that in service of something beyond just what's the price of it. And, learned about, the value of respondent level data, all that sort of thing. Worked with clients directly, some great brands. Allstate, Showtime, Best Buy. I was actually with somebody who works at Purposeful today, where she had some of those clients, and we were talking about some of the things that they were working on. I'm like, the goals are still the same. It's just the way you get there
the
is a
pipes
little
are
bit
different,
right?
Yeah.
And then, really for personal reasons, wanted to go back to New York. Went back to Fox to work for my old boss, doing the same job I had done at Universal. And very nice to be home, but I was getting itchy and antsy. My eyes had been kind of expanded when I had been at Starcom, so then I had opportunity to go to IPG and relaunch Magna Global, which was an insights and intelligence group, and also a buying arm. And that was my first really global experience. So, going to Seoul, Korea to pitch Hyundai Kia. And did that for a number of years, and then I went to Viacom, and that was really the first time I've been back at a house of brands. So you had Viacom as the parent, and then
MTV,
Nickelodeon, MTV,
Cartoon Network.
Cartoon.
No, that's Turner.
Turner. And they, a brand like MTV had been an analog brand, but was really exploding in social and YouTube. And I was there for about 7 years doing positioning, org design, go-to-market, and a lot of the digital and social partnerships, one of them of which was with Snapchat.
Oh, nice.
And there were a lot of different changes, and I got antsy and thought to myself, I want to be part of the future. And so made a decision. I had the opportunity to go over and work, it was pre-IPO, with this app that my children at that point, who were, teenagers, that's how they communicated. I'm like, this is incredible.
I know, it's wild.
So thinking about how you put a business model on the other side of that, I think Evan was absolutely ahead of his time in terms of this notion of the right to be forgotten. Right?
The erasable internet, if you would.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was there, and then I went to what was Verizon Brady, but it's really the Yahoo AOL brands.
Yeah.
They had been purchased by
like Go90 and some of those.
Well, that was interesting. When I was at Viacom, we pitched Go90, won it, and then they kept saying, well, can we, sort of separate out, they wanted to parse the sales rights, and I'm like, And then they bought Yahoo and AOL. So it became clear why they wanted to parse the sales rights.
Nice.
And then, but that was really interesting. So it was part of a public company when it was really small, I would like to say rounding error on their balance sheet. And then Apollo made one of the most brilliant acquisitions ever. They brought somebody by the name of Jim Lanzone in, who I'm sure you know, I had the opportunity to be a part of that leadership team. They're doing great work. It's actually great to see them right at the Yahoo Beach and out here in front of the Palais. And had a number of jobs, but ultimately was the CRO there. And it was incredible. It was incredible. I would have said there was nothing that would have ever had me leave before that was complete. But then Condé came calling, and the opportunity to join these iconic brands.
Probably the most marquee premium publishing brands in the world, right?
And, Roger Lynch, who's the CEO, had really put in place the globalization and the modernization. And, the brands speak for themselves, all the editors, certainly Anna. And it just seemed like too good an opportunity to say no to. And what I think, bring it back, you asked me about my can. I'm getting to the answer.
No, I love it. Don't worry about it. I love the context is helpful, I think, for people to understand your point of view.
Yeah, when I joined, the reason I wanted to join is the opportunity to be a part of brands that have such brand loyalty and brand trust. And I've always felt that brand was important. And certainly with the rise of the platform, I would say brand was diminished, right? Scale and context and one-to-one became also important, but brand had been diminished. And I was just watching basic consumer behavior, personal experience, and then you speak with all your clients, you see how they're responding. I'm like, this is going to be important again. Yeah. And wow, what a wonderful place to be able to be when it starts to become more important again. But the last 18 months, it has accelerated tenfold.
Amazing.
And that is, I think, a lot of the conversation of what you're hearing about here in Cannes.
Yeah, you talked about off camera the idea that, your primary thinking right now is to help people understand the technological transformative nature of the Condé empire, if you would, and to try and shed some of those old perceptions as a legacy publishing company. How is that work going? What is your biggest challenges and what have been your biggest successes?
Going right for it.
Let's go.
Love it, Dylan. Look, I think the privilege of working at these brands is just, I don't even know if it can be expressed in words. They are so strong. They resonate so well with consumers. I think, candidly, when you work with any of the brands, when you are a consumer of the brands, you feel it, right? The Met Gala, as an example, that had, I think, 3 billion views.
Yep.
And that's, digitally,
It's as big as the Super Bowl,
right?
And especially in an audience that cares. There's an audience predominantly female, but not only, that cares about fashion much more than they care about sports.
And fashion and culture, right?
Yeah.
And the importance in culture.
Yeah. That is their Super Bowl in a lot of ways.
The New Yorker, as an example, a very different brand. Not just the incredible journalism. There was Tatiana Salzberg wrote an essay in the fall that, just resonated throughout. You have Katie Drummond, who's the editor of Wired, talks about, the story that the zero-based story, the story that starts before the story, and the type of reporting that they do. And a lot of her reporting has almost become foundational for a lot of other news media. Kara Swisher, Rachel Maddow, all have used some of her content in their reporting.
Amazing.
Referencing. We have a very large commerce business, which is, if you think about what makes you want to buy something, what makes you want to trust that it's the thing that you want to buy.
Editorial recommendation
Right.
or review.
So that's, brand trust around Allure Best of Beauty, right? There are over 1 billion products.
10 things to pack on my canned trip to the south of France this summer.
Well, that's probably Condé Nast Traveler, but again, you trust Condé Nast Traveler because a head has slept on the bed.
And it's
right?
and it's tied to intent, right? Like people are looking for that quick snippet, that information that'll help not just entertain and inform, but really help them have a better experience.
And we're showing up in a completely multimedia way. From Chloe Mall has a great new podcast. It's actually not that new at this point. You have the new editorial direction that Mark Guiducci has put in place in Vanity Fair. You see the consumer reaction. That's the beautiful thing about technology. Consumers tell you right away, do they like what you're doing? Do they understand what you're doing? Do they want more of what you're doing?
Yeah.
So I think it's a really exciting, powerful time. I think the other thing that's really interesting, and I see clients and partners looking to us for our feedback, is we've actively partnered with all the major LLMs.
I was going to say, a big controversy in the publishing industry right now is, these frontier labs are spending lots of money on compute, lots of money on chips. They're building data centers. They're even building nuclear power plants. But the one thing that they don't pay for is the content that these models are trained on. And it seems like that's starting to change. It seems like these models are coming to you guys and saying, hey, we want to get ahead of this. We want to be fair. We want to recognize that without human input, these LLMs are just going to be bots writing content for bots, and no one's going to understand what they're saying at some point if there's not humans contributing real thoughts to the internet.
I mean, it's very public. We have actively partnered with all the major LLMs.
Amazing.
That was definitely part of Roger's strategy, kind of learning the lessons of what happened when YouTube came around, or music.
Yeah.
You can't be
Don't fight it.
You can't be an anti-futurist, but you can be purposeful.
Right.
You can put guardrails up. You can
and create fair
learn
arrangements.
and iterate. And look, we see our content, is some of the most recommended because it's valued and trusted. And value and trust doesn't just happen. It's built over time, and it's because you regularly deliver what a consumer, or if it's an advertising brand working with us, what they expect. The other piece that has been very interesting, and I think really differentiated, and not, it's kind of interesting to talk about it here at Cannes, which is an interpersonal experience, is the value of the physical event.
Yeah.
And we feel it's a real differentiator for us. It's not only a branding moment, it's a revenue moment. Our revenue has increased 40% year over year for our big events, whether it's the Vanity Fair Oscar party, or we're going to have Vogue World this year in Milan.
Oh, my goodness.
Did you see The Devil Wears Prada too?
I haven't seen it yet. My wife is a huge fan of the original, since she worked at Warner Brothers when it came out, and her boss was kind of, looked to the main character as a source of inspiration on how to torture his employees. So it was always kind of a joke, but yeah, it's such a great
Well,
film.
so when you do watch it,
I will see it.
the last scene is this beautiful. It's an event that happens in Milan, and our Vogue World. It's really a nod to Vogue World.
I love that.
So I like to say both, real life and imagination are coming together, and Vogue's giving its cues as to how that should look. But it will be at the Galleria. It will be gorgeous. There's always a charitable component as well. But that to me is very differentiated in terms of helping people understand the value and the differentiation of Condé. That is very, very important.
I love it.
Finding the right audience to build a media plan requires hours of research. And optimizing campaigns is time-consuming and a bit of a guessing game. That's why we built technology to do it for you. Strike Social.
And I think that's one of the reasons, people really like to come to Cannes.
Yeah.
It's funny, every year, I'm sure you're going to ask me, so I'll just say, what's the value of Cannes? Right?
Yeah, well, we can get there, but I had a question that I think is pertinent to your guys' business more than anyone. So on my flight out, my family sat 4 seats to the middle row, and I sat by myself at the aisle next to them, and a young gal sat next to me. We started chatting, and she was headed to Cannes too, even though this was the beginning of a 3-stop, flight from Los Angeles. And
That's a long flight.
It was a long flight, and we had a great conversation. She works in influencer marketing, and we had a nice chat. And then when we were done talking, she pulled out a magazine, and she read a magazine on the plane. And that used to be such a fun experience for me. I was a development executive in Hollywood, and I would go to the newsstand and get all the magazines and try and find the stories to send out option letters, and back when magazines were still a very important part of culture, even before the internet, the explosion of the internet and social. But you do see this Gen Z, millennial digital detox revolution, people wanting physical things, people playing with audio cassettes and vinyl and Polaroid pictures. And I thought it was very, interesting that someone, of a younger demographic than me would pull out a magazine for a flight instead of putting on our headphones and watching a movie or logging onto the internet and doing text and whatever. So I wonder, since you guys have these iconic, glossies, and they've been such a staple of your history, are you seeing that as a trend? And are brands interested, because I think there was a point where maybe the magazine business did become a little full, maybe too many ads in the books. And I wonder now if you're seeing this kind of resurgence to physical world, not just experiences, but physical things, to be able to go to the beach, leave your phone at home, flip through your favorite magazine, see all the ads and the fashion editorials, read stories. I wonder if that's something that you guys are tracking.
So, yes, and.
Yep.
So, first I would say a nice thick magazine is not a bad thing, right? And I think they're beautiful. I think certainly one of the reasons
that's true. Sometimes the ads are native. Hold and touch and feel.
Or just, it's a physical item that is beautiful and a keepsake, right? So I think what we've seen the evolution is it's a moment, right? It used to be the mechanism for delivering all the information that you would need in your life, and now there are multiple mechanisms, right? It's a moment. All the titles think about it as a moment. There are different types of moments, and we have different cadences for the physical publication. But I bet that young woman who was reading the magazine also was connected on Insta
I'm sure.
to that brand, so knew about something that was going on, or had heard it discussed on a podcast, right?
Yeah.
So you really have to think about the consumer as a whole person, not in silos.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's become really exciting is everybody, certainly at Condé Nast, but I would say in the ecosystem has started to understand you really need to build these things together. And different need states and different moments have different ways that will really benefit each other.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah.
And now I will take you up on your question
Oh,
about
yeah,
what is the
no.
value of can? Have you seen it changed over the years?
So this is my 14th can.
So cool.
It's very 2 years off for the horribleness
pandemic,
in 2020. I try
Well,
not
at least
to
you didn't miss out. Everybody missed out.
I
right?
try not to use the word because I don't like to validate. I have never come to Cannes and not left with an engagement that has produced an incredibly meaningful partnership, product, initiative.
I love that.
Always happens.
Mhm.
It's really hard sometimes to convince people of that. And so I'm like, there must be data out there. So what I did in anticipation of you and I having this conversation is I'm like, I'm going to find an actual research study. I found two.
So good.
So I found one with the Harvard Business Review. It was from 2018, which is a while ago, but
Sure.
not.
Yeah, not ancient
Will we
history.
accept? Will we accept it?
I'll take it.
Okay, 2018. And what it says is that when you change your environment, you actually allow for a different kind of thinking.
Yeah, pattern interruption.
Right?
Yep.
That's why I don't know about you, but when I really have to do thinking, I need to get up and go walk around.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
what works
Yeah.
for me.
I
Different
walk
people.
around my backyard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was maybe one of the only good things about that horrible time. Is there was a lot of walking around. Then I'm like, okay, that's good. That's Harvard Business Review. I think what they did is, they use surveys. All right, so that's sort of psychographic. I need some more data.
Yeah.
NIH, 2021.
Yep.
Evidently, when you change your location, it opens up your neural pathways, and they actually have the ability to reform, like come back together. I'm not a scientist, so don't hold me to the science.
I could totally see it. Yeah.
We all know that to be true, right? I'm not saying anything that anybody would argue with, but I was happy to find some actual data to support what I know to be true.
I love it. Well, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that in a world, I'm in a business development role generally with much smaller companies. But at the end of the day, it's harder than ever to break through sending emails to people you don't know. LinkedIn has become, a lot of AI bots chatting and trying to get you to, so there's a lot of noise, and kind of, I think the average person's Pavlovian response is, I'm not interested. But I think what a conference, whether it's a small intimate gathering or an experience or something massive like Cannes that has a lot of layers, I think at the end of the day, human-to-human connection is really, we could have a Zoom call, we could do this over, Riverside or Restream, but something happens when you're in the room with somebody, chemistry, the human connection, I think, is what makes for great conversations. You don't build friends on Zoom, you build friends in the real world. So I think it's invaluable, and I've noticed that even from a performance perspective on the podcast, the shows that I do in a studio or in person outperform the shows that I do online. And I think it's just because, when people see a podcast that's, like a Zoom call, something that they, sometimes despise and that's in their calendar every single day, it's maybe even if they want to absorb the information, they may have a little bit of a Pavlovian response to that as well. So I just think it's great to be able to come together in the real world.
And the other thing is that an event like this, it also allows for real fandom.
Yeah,
right,
totally.
which has become a really important component of just consumer behavior, certainly of marketing. You actually had somebody on your podcast, Sherry Cohen.
Yeah,
Who
Cherie.
she is-
Yeah,
she
I just ran
X
into
Games,
her.
right?
Yeah, at X Games. Literally ran into her at the fountain yesterday. She's on a flight right now, back to the kickoff of their new league in Sacramento.
But
So,
she talked a lot about that, the
Totally.
importance of fandom. I was really, a lot of what she said really resonated. And you know, it's so important that we think about things in a 360 way, and this is a great moment and opportunity to do
Totally.
that.
Well, I want to be respectful of your
Thank you.
heart out.
Yeah.
If folks at home want to connect with you, learn more about your thinking, or stay in touch, where would you like to?
I mean,
send people to-
I'm a Condé Nast. Hopefully
go.
everybody knows where to find me. But
Nice.
it's wonderful to be here.
Yeah.
Wonderful to be here in Cannes. And I know there's a lot going on, but I think it's a really exciting time for really premium, trusted brands in an age of transformation.
I love it. Thanks for spending some time with us. Cheers.
Thank you.